But now it is time for our formal introduction of our lovely guest, the Sam Whiteout. And just to give you a little bit of background on Sam, he is an activist and cultural commentator. In response to becoming a viral internet sensation through stroll videos and his fraternity brothers, Sam developed his platform to address and discuss issues about which he's always been passionate and to facilitate these conversations that are too often avoided. Central to Sam's message of hashtag #BeYouBeGreat is the idea that you do not have to identify as something to care about it or recognize its value. Amen. Allyship is an essential tool in strategically working towards progress. Sam works to be an example of what integrating social justice into your life looks like for others and how to do so with transparency and authenticity. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes. See all that teacher reading, you see, like, thank you.
I'm glad you didn't make me do it because I feel like, you're being a teacher, I'd still feel the pressure. Getting called on in class.
Yeah, it's okay. I try not to cold call too much in my class, but thank you so much for coming on here. Thank you for already.
I'm so glad it worked out.
Yes, like we've been kind of eyeing you for a long time, and we're glad that we finally can like bring it all together. And so we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it. So Sam, first question. Who is your favorite Power Ranger and why?
Who is my favorite Power Ranger? That's a great question.
Thank you. I was very excited about this.
A couple days ago was the 23rd anniversary of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, the one with like the purple ooze. Ivan Ooze. Yeah. I love that movie. That movie actually, and like the Power Rangers, is why I started Taekwondo, which I've been doing for like 20 years actually. 20 years this July actually.
Wow.
So you're still doing it?
Yeah. I started because I wanted to be a Power Ranger. Because what kid doesn't want to be a Power Ranger?
Mm-hmm. I wanted to be the Yellow Ranger because I did not like pink. Okay. Nor did I appreciate her being in a skirt. I thought that was just not really
sexist.
Yeah, a little sexist, and I just felt like it wasn't logical. It was just like I'm kicking butt, and
I mean Xena did it.
Yeah, you're right. But, fair.
But now you're right.
I used to want to be the red, and then my cousin George, because he was older, he was the red, so I was the blue. And then once Tommy came, fuck y'all.
No, it was Tommy. I was about to say.
Once Tommy came, that's where I was at. Fuck.
I was always like back and forth between like the people can make fun of this, for the black and white Power Ranger, because I feel like Tommy was the White Ranger.
He was the Green Ranger
first,
then he turned to the right,
and then became the White Ranger.
Yeah, but what? Yeah. So it was, in the movie, he was the White Ranger.
Yeah.
And then, what was the Black Ranger? Zach.
Yeah.
He's always dance.
But I mean, and Power Rangers, they were a little bit like right on the nose with some of their assigning of colors, because Trini was the Yellow Ranger, and Zach was the Black Ranger. It was like, which is why I do appreciate.
On the nose, there was a nice euphemism for racist.
Thank you. Quite racist, but just why I did appreciate the new movie and them kind
of. I didn't see it. Was it good?
I thought it was actually.
It was cool.
I thought it was pretty good.
I feel like Power Rangers are kind of like a uniquely '90s. TV show process thing.
This movie, the Black Ranger, he wasn't black.
He was Asian. No, he was Asian.
No, the Black Ranger. I'm saying the
Black Power Ranger or the black guy?
The Ranger who was black.
Okay.
He was like the movie. He made the movie.
Yeah,
like,
so
take him out of it, the movie is not there.
Yeah, so his name was Billy, and he was Billy. So he was black, but he was the Blue Ranger, and he was like on the spectrum, on autism spectrum.
Yeah.
They are just hitting every.
Yeah, and then like
they're just running through the check marks.
Becky G, I think that's her name. She's like a singer, actress.
Sure.
Yeah. So she's like, so she was like the Yellow Ranger, but she's like Latina, and
she was gay,
bisexual.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was like there was like a.
They are literally hitting. They were
inclusivity
demographic.
They were going for
checking all the boxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for that reason, not for that reason alone, but it was like all things considered, like it was
a cool movie.
Nostalgia, and it was cool.
It was a movie pass movie. It wasn't a go pay $20 to see movie.
Yeah, but it was like. It was our childhood. Like,
so
I was gonna go see it.
So Tommy and Kimberly, the original ones, they like make a brief cameo in it.
I bet they did.
And so like, of course, like
also like Star Wars shit where like Luke and whatever show up.
Yeah. So like we like as like the 30-year-olds in the room could be like, oh shit, there's Tommy and Kimberly, and I'm sure like you know, the
Tommy
14.
His ponytail.
Yeah, his hair's short now, but his.
Now I gotta watch it. I
mean, you know,
I'm about to I gotta bootleg it on.
All things considered.
Yeah, exactly.
All things considered, it was not a terrible movie at all. It was, you know, better than Uncle Drew, I guess.
Oh, it was definitely better than Uncle Drew's.
Uncle Drew was so bad it was good though. It was like so bad it was funny.
I was there for the basketball. Like I wanted to see a basketball movie, so that was it.
Yeah, I mean,
other than that, you can keep it.
Well, I'm glad that we discussed our favorite Power Rangers because I think that brought us all together.
Amen.
You know, you want to go ahead, babe?
So depending on how a person was introduced to you, they may perceive you a certain way. But in your own words, who is Sam White?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that what I've tried to learn is that it's as much important for me to understand how somebody comes to know what I do and who I am as it is for me to try and do what I do, right? So if someone's unfamiliar with certain parts of the story or if they're only seeing certain things, then that is certainly going to impact the way that they understand what I do. And I think it can be frustrating because on one hand it's like, okay, well, I can't control all of this. On the other, it's encouraging because it's something that I can always continue to get better at, right? How can I do the best job possible at making sure that people see all the different things that I'm doing? And I think that's important because I was talking about this last night with somebody. I don't do just one thing. That's never been my game. And then when the videos went viral and we started taking this seriously, there were people who said, look, you should just pick one thing, whether it's fashion or social justice or whatever, and just do only that. And, or music, or whatever the case may be. And I was like, look, but I don't live that way. Like, that's not the life that I live. Like, I wear many different hats. I'm passionate about all kinds of different things. So for me, I think I try and serve as an example for what it would look like to be yourself in a way that is authentic, to be yourself in a way that is productive and sustainable and realistic, because otherwise, what the fuck is the point? There's a nice quote. I'm trying to remember who it was. I can't remember whether it's Oscar Wilde or Mr. Rogers, which is an odd pairing in my head. But it's, why try and be anybody else other than yourself? Because everybody else has already taken something to that effect.
I almost want to say it was Mr. Rogers.
But it could be both. Yeah. But no, I think that's kind of the way that I approach it.
Got you.
And so, hopefully I'm not doing too bad of a job.
I don't think you are. So, did our homework. Okay. And you mentioned in your bio that you grew up in a household where social justice was always a topic of conversation in one way or another. What was your first memory of, like, taking a stand in something that you believed in? And I asked that because I remember the first time I ever, like, stood up for someone else, like, and I was in the first grade, and it was, like, very small moment, but it always still, like, resonates in my head 25 years later. Like, I remember sticking up for this girl in my class because they were berating her. And I'm curious to know, like, what was that moment for you? Could be something small like that, or even like a movement.
Yeah. That's a great question. It was actually something I was thinking about recently. So it's kind of give me a little bit of rope here. It's a little bit of a background story, but my dad always used to call me Superman, right? And as a kid, I didn't even really register it until like high school or middle school when a couple of my friends were like, "Why does your dad call you Superman?" Because he would use that as a nickname as casually as he would say Sam, right? Like, "Oh, Superman, like hurry up, we got to go to school," or "Hurry up," you know what I'm saying? Or there's a lot of hurry up, whatever the case may be. And so I asked him about it, and it turns out that when I was in pre-K, he like was talking with my teachers, and they said that apparently, so goes the story that, I had sort of a group of like 2 or 3 girls and I who were friends, and we would hang out and play together during playtime. And whenever anything happened to anybody, whether it was they fell down or there was an argument or there was something, before any teachers or anybody else would get over there, me leading my little crew, right, we would just run over and just make sure that everybody was good.
Aww.
And I have no recollection of this.
So you're saving the day.
I have no idea. But it was a story that really resonated, and for a little bit I actually thought it was kind of corny. And then I realized that it was such a perfect demonstration, I think, of the way that I was just raised, right? Like, and it's something that I don't really take credit for because it was something that I was taught. It was the kind of way that I was taught to be myself. And I think that resonated, whether it was on small issues, whether it was throughout grade school and high school, and then when we get to college and we're sort of doing what we would now identify as grassroots organizing and activism, which back when I was in school, which wasn't that long ago, I mean, I'm only like 4 years out of school, we were just like, this shit is fucked up. Like, we need to do something. We didn't have sort of this lexicon around it that we have now, which is not a bad thing. But I think that in many ways the stage had already been set, you know, from when I was growing up. Whether it was something as silly as, you know, Superman on the playground or, you know, organizing in the aftermath of, you know, police violence incidents and stuff like that.
Great. So like, I think that's a great segue to our next question, which was about your time, like when you got to college, because again, in reading about that, like, so you went to Villanova, and it wasn't necessarily like specified, but it seems like there was some like problematic moments or events that happened with like these like marginalized groups. And I mean, I know of Villanova, but I don't know if this was something that was kind of like encapsulated in the campus, or if this was things that like made the news or not. And I could, you know, maybe we were, you know, in our own bubble. But what were some of those issues that you were witness to, and like how did you begin to like kind of Superman the whole thing?
That Superman shit's gonna come back to bite me. But
it's all right. It's cute.
So Villanova is a small school around 6,000 undergrads, about 4,000 grad students, about 25 minutes outside of Philadelphia. And Villanova is a perfect microcosm for all the national issues that we're facing, right? It's a very, a really great example for me as to why we can come into a situation like we have now with Trump. So it's not that Villanova is full of bad, evil people. It's that Villanova is full of a lot of people who just simply don't give a shit, right? Unless it directly affects them. So I experienced both sides of this. My roommate freshman year and his friends were white supremacists, essentially, right? They hated anything and everything that wasn't them. That became problematic for me trying to make friends. It became problematic with trying to sleep, and they would damage my things, and it sort of reached a climax. And I think the only reason it got to that point, of course, was because everyone on the hall, the RA, everybody knew, but nobody cared because it wasn't having to do with them. And that is a great example of all the things that happened in Villanova, right? I don't know that you could find more than maybe one or two black alumni from Villanova who have not been called the N-word to their face by a white student at Villanova. There are so many incidents, and it's not just at Villanova, but across the country, and I'm so blessed to be able to travel to these different schools and work with students. A lot of these stories don't get national news. They don't even make regular news, right? There was a young black woman who was walking through this sort of tunnel we have under the train tracks, and this was after Trump got elected. And she was bum rushed by three guys screaming Trump, 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 and they knocked her down and gave her a concussion. Wow. That didn't make the news. You know, the university didn't do anything about that. The police didn't do anything about that. That was normal at Villanova. It was understood. Like, you learned very quickly the climate of your campus. Wow. I think any college student would know that to be true. And Villanova was ugly. It was ugly on every level. Racism, sexism, homophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. You know, it was an incredibly conservative school. It is deceptively Catholic in that way, right? So it's a Catholic school, and they talk about everybody. You know, they talk about community, and we accept everybody, and we love everybody, and that's bullshit, right? The Hillel organization, which is the Jewish organization on campus, I tried to revive that. They wouldn't give us room reservations on campus. They would find excuses to not give us space.
Really?
You know, the pro-life group, it was allowed to put crosses outside of one of the dining halls to signify the unborn lives they believed to have been lost. The pro-choice group couldn't get a room reservation on campus, right? Like, there were so many ways top down, whether you're talking administrators, professors, students, student leaders, everything, where they just didn't give a shit about a lot of people on campus. And so that was the environment that I found myself in. And it wasn't that I was unfamiliar with like racism. I mean, I knew that my household, you know, was a little different than most kids. It wasn't until Villanova, though, that I realized just how different it was, A, and B, that the level of ugliness is not always going to be as obvious on the surface as it is in reality. And so I found myself in this environment. I was able to get out of that room situation, and I ended up gravitating in a way towards not only the activist community, which was synonymous with the Black community, but the Black community on a social level. And then from there, it turned out, right, of course, that the same kids on campus who were doing things to make Villanova a less hostile place were all that was the Black community, 100%.
Got you.
And that's when I started to get involved formally in sort of social justice and grassroots activism. And that's also when I started to, hang out in the Black community and in the Black circles.
Got it. It's funny, like there's some parallels I hear like that kind of rang bells for me listening to your background, because like at Towson,
I was thinking the same thing.
Towson's racist as fuck.
So like we had, he came after
the white affinity group.
Yeah. Matt, whatever his name is, and like
racist, like racy face.
Yeah, basically, I think he got arrested for like beating his wife too, but don't quote me.
Yeah, he was trying to start the white student union,
and because
and that was a tough time for us, because my line brother, he was the president of the BSU
at the time.
Yeah.
So he had to like
deal with it,
and
because the school wasn't dealing with that shit.
No,
not on any level that was really like change, like that was
effective.
Making effective. Because and it was frustrating because like it happened right after I graduated, but like I was somebody who was like on the board, like I was on the committees, I was on the board for BSU for 2 years in a row while I was at Towson, and the being in a sorority, like having that like on that aspect of it. And then it even took me further back to my first roommate, because my first roommate was from West Virginia, and then I was I'm this Black girl from Queens, and at first it seemed okay, but then she just started spouting off like all types of like first covertly and kind of like these microaggressions and things like that, and then it kind of bubbled up when her boyfriend sent this like racist Facebook message to became my roommate, but she lived next door at the time, and like we got into this huge argument, and like she tried, one time TJ came to visit me, and normally she was never there when TJ would come on weekends because she's always somewhere else, and she happened to be there, and she made a whole stink about not being comfortable with his presence, and I had to be like, no, you mean his Black male presence. I was like, don't like fake it, don't fake like you're uncomfortable and all that stuff. So like ultimately she moved out because I was on some bitch, I was here first, like I moved in 3 days before you, so this is gonna be my dorm room. And she moved down the hall and stuff, and I never heard from her again after that freshman year. But it was a lot, like having to combat that, and just like and I tried to even do the whole like, I'm gonna try and educate you because maybe you haven't been around people of color before. Like, don't say these things, don't like this comes like when you tell me all Black people look alike when watching TV, like that's a problem. So yeah, like it's colleges, universities have a lot to go.
A lot of students are facing at every single school in the country.
Yeah.
I would. You find me someone who says that their school doesn't have those issues, and I'll find you a liar.
I support that, yeah, because even our little cousin, she's transferring schools because she's at one where like they've written like nigger on her door. And I mean, she's like the lead tour, like literally gives tour guides, like the number one like tour guide for the college, and people are
and the school's not going to protect her.
Yeah, so
that's why she's gone.
And so I think that's part of what's important about my work, is not only working with students to figure out how they can navigate these spaces, working with potential allies, right, with particularly white students about how they can get involved and why this is an issue that they should care about. But also starting to push administrations and say, like, you cannot sit idly by and sort of abdicate responsibility when what's going on your campus is something that if you're aware of it, then you are negligent, and if you're unaware of it, then you're still negligent, because these are things that you should be aware of. It's like when we would have programming, sort of diversity and inclusion programming for professors on campus. And say, well, I never face these issues. I'm a biology professor. We never talk about this stuff. Okay, well, that's not my fucking problem, right? I don't care, right? At the end of the day, you have students who are being put in much more difficult circumstances than they should be, and in difficult circumstances that are 100% avoidable. Yeah. So make it your business.
Yeah, and you should be able to identify them and be able to be, at the very least, be aware of it, so that way if you can identify it, great, or even if they come to you,
just not dismiss it when it's brought to your attention. When students come to you and say, hey, I'm dealing with this, don't say, well, no, you're not. Right? Yeah. I think that's an issue that is so common on a variety of scales, whether it's through the lens of race, gender, sexuality, right? An underrepresented group, we don't like to use the word minority, but a disadvantaged group,
marginalized,
group, right? Will come and say, look, this is what we're dealing with, and they're like, nah, you're good.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah, and it's funny, like you mentioned that, because like literally I was telling you earlier, like the class I'm taking right now in grad school is called culturally responsive teaching, because which some people kind of call it like, it's the class about like for white teachers who teach like in the hood, because it's like being able to identify like those differences in culture and it's about incorporating the differences in culture into your classroom, because
and creating an environment
where it's like a safe space, and it's still even teaching me a lot, because although I am a Black woman, I'm from an urban setting, I teach in an urban setting, there are also dynamics that I haven't experienced that my students have, and I have to be able to address them, and definitely, and at the very least, not dismiss them, because it impacts a person's ability to learn and thrive.
I saw a photo on Twitter of someone snapped a photo of this white woman reading a book, and the book said, for white teachers who teach in the hood.
It was like by Chris
people were
Emden,
clowning her.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people, and myself included, I said, this is great.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you buy that book and you read that book. And I'm not saying that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
But that
shows that you care.
Yeah.
That shows that you're at least trying.
Yeah, and I'll say this from the educator perspective. Every educator that I know, like that's like way more tenured than me, who knows that book is like, it's a great read for any educator too. And then it's just like, because and like every educator I knew that like all caped for her, because they were like, no, like more teachers should be reading that book than less. And so like, particularly
because cultural competency, when we talk about it from an educational perspective, is not limited to issues of race, Black and white. There's also issues of other races, ethnicities. There's gender issues. There's sexuality issues that we're seeing more and more of in terms of supporting kids who are figuring out, if and on what sort of level, shall we say, they are on an LGBTQ spectrum, and what they're figuring out, and how do we support them and make sure that they can also, at the end of the day, right, like take the tests that they need to take and learn and socialize and do all those important things. So I 100% agree.
Well, moving right along, because I feel like we could always go down that rabbit hole really fast.
Yes,
Excuse me.
We can rap about that for hours.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You want me to?
Go ahead, chime in. This is our show.
So, how are you coping, resisting in the era of Trump?
Which
I think that's why you set me up with that question.
No, I didn't.
Because of the whole Trump thing.
This is adorable, by
the way. But go ahead.
So I think that it's a really difficult balance, and anybody who says they figured it out is being dishonest in a way that I think is dangerous. There is no balance, really. The whole point is it's thrown us wildly out of balance. The Trump administration is constantly presenting an onslaught of attacks to things which we shouldn't have to defend, right?
100%.
On every level,
in
every facet, in every department, right? We are facing an attack and we're having to play defense, which makes it really difficult to keep going. It makes it difficult to also keep in mind, it's not just enough to say what we're fighting against. We have to say what we're fighting for, right? And I find that you have a lot more energy, you have a lot more inspiration, you have a lot more motivation when you're clear about what you're fighting for. Because you're working towards something rather than working against something. And that is what is most difficult, I think, right now. So when people talk about, oh, this is a distraction, I'm wary about that because I think that, I don't know that I necessarily want to give the Trump administration enough credit to suggest that they can create distractions. I think that their strategy is chaos 100%. But I think that sort of saying that it's a distraction minimizes the extent to which it's important. And a lot of the shit that we're defending is incredibly important. But that does not mean that we can lose sight of what we're fighting for, of imagining what a government should look like, not just how this one isn't that. Imagining what our schools should look like, what our healthcare system should look like, what our police department should look like, what society should look like if we were able to craft it in a way that was responsible and that was not having to deal with an onslaught of attacks. So that's what's been difficult for me. And the way that I do it is, I'll take a walk if I need to take a walk. I make, and I'm not self-care in a way that is, I think, a cop-out, not self-care like, ooh, this is stressful and I don't want to deal with it, let me back off. But self-care in a way that I need to take some time so that I can continue to fight tomorrow, so that I can continue to fight today, so that I can get this job done so I can pay my bills, so that I can, whatever the case may be, right? We have to think about it in a sustainable way. There's a tradition in Judaism in terms of giving charity, right? If you give charity in the Jewish tradition to the point that you have nothing and therefore require charity, you've actually done worse than giving no charity at all. You've created a new problem instead of solving one.
I understand.
Right, and I like the way that would translate on a long-term basis in terms of giving back, in terms of resisting. You have to do it in a way that you proselytize. You bring people into the fold. President Clinton has a nice analogy where he says, we want to expand the definition of us and constrict the definition of them, right?
Yeah, I get it.
And I think that is the mindset that I constantly try and remind myself about, so that even during a really tough week, I may vent to my dad for 20 minutes, or I may vent with my roommates, and we may rap about this or that. But at the end of the day, right, I'm thinking about what can I do today, what can I do tomorrow, and what do I want things to look like in 10 years? Because if I lose sight of that, then what are we really doing?
Makes sense.
Yeah, and you get...
It's a point of contention for me and Danny.
Yeah,
a lot.
I do sometimes have to do the self-care where sometimes I have to like back away from like the news, or not saying I stick my head in the sand, but I get very like worked up about it. And so and it's not even a point of contention like as far as like resisting, because we both agree that like Trump is awful and everything like that, and that he needs to be stopped, and there's things that we need to be working towards. I think it's just a matter of like accepting it for what it is. It's just like I recognize that it is the reality that we're living in, but I can choose to not accept it. And he's more like,
I'm like, you got to accept it. Like, we have to accept the fact that he won. He's in office for the next 4 years. And it's up for us to educate the people. It's up to us to come together to say, we can't have this again.
Yeah.
Like,
And resisted at every turn, I think, while it's happening.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, people didn't like Hillary, and that's cool. But when you're running the country, it's about who's the most qualified. For me, at least. Like, if Trump was somebody else and they had the same political background, then I'd be okay. But he's not a politician. He literally just threw his hat in there.
I mean, and to me, the differentiation between whether he's a politician or not is irrelevant, because Trump is actually a perfect amalgamation of the Republican Party over the past 45 to 60 years.
Got it.
You could even make the argument that Trump is the perfect culmination of the Republican Party since the Civil War. Trump has not said or done anything that's new to the Republican Party.
Nope.
The Republican Party is fundamentally a white supremacist organization. They have built white supremacy into their platform. It is the only foundation of who they are. There is no conservative idea in American politics that is unique to conservatism that is not rooted in white supremacy. And so I think that the frustrating thing for me is, I don't give a fuck whether you like Hillary Clinton or not. I don't care. I don't care if you hate her.
Got you.
The idea that she wasn't infinitely more qualified than Trump, that she wasn't the most vetted political candidate in the history of modern politics. We knew more about her life than we have known about any politician in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Okay? And we knew nothing about all kinds of shady shit that Trump was doing.
And still don't.
Knew that we knew the information that we didn't have. We knew how dangerous that could be. And we wound up in this anyway. And so what frustrates me is, there are certain progressive or so-called liberal circles where people will still say, well, he's bad, right? But like, it's not as catastrophic as people are making it out to be. And that's maybe because they're not facing the consequences. Maybe they're still, maybe they haven't been separated from their families. Maybe they haven't been, subject to the mass incarceration system, or any of the litany of ways in which this is fucking people over.
Yeah.
And so for those folks, I have to resist my cynicism. Because to those folks, I just want to say, fuck y'all. Right? Like, this isn't affecting you, so you don't care. And you want to still stay grounded in this, well, Hillary wasn't perfect, or I didn't like this, or I didn't like that. Okay, cool. I don't care. Hillary's a problematic candidate, 1,000%. But whatever arguments you want to have, at the end of the day, when it came down to her and Trump, the idea that it was even a conversation is disgraceful.
Yeah.
So I think that balance is tough to strike, because if we go down this route of constantly, we should have had Hillary, it's like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not as productive as saying, look, we are where we are. Let's make sure we don't make these mistakes again, and we can be more explicit about those things in the future. And hopefully there's been some collective learning, particularly on the part of certain media organizations, that maybe the false equivocations between Hillary and Trump were not the best idea, and were not journalistically sound.
Nope. I can wholeheartedly support that. And more than anything, he's just an awful human being. Like,
he's a sexual abuser. He's a pedophile. Like,
there's probably some incest thrown in there. And I'm just saying, like, the way he lusts after his daughter is definitely not okay.
And the Republican Party's okay with it.
Because long as, like,
this is all worth it for Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell.
Yes, it is. There's a special place in hell for them. So now that we've kind of gotten the deepest parts out of this, the serious stuff, let's, we know that a lot, and for a lot of people, you're going viral, shimmying, everything was kind of their introduction to you.
Yeah.
And so how did that level of like kind of instant recognition, like how did that feel for you? How did that impact you?
That shit was crazy. It was like an overnight thing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, people knew who I was a little bit in certain circles before the videos. I was really active on the yard. I was really active on other campuses. And Philly has a very communal environment, so I would do a lot of Penn and Drexel and Temple and all this other stuff. But then all of a sudden it went from like,
just locally,
like people kind of, maybe I might be mixing in a group chat, and with some Greeks or something like that. And then all of a sudden people are like stopping me on the street. And it was really jarring, and I was really blessed to have really close friends who I could kind of figure this out with. And so sometimes they'd have to tell me like, they'd be like, Sam, this shit is, you need to grow up. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is your new normal. So get used to it. You know what I'm saying? There's no point, there's no respect in sort of that false humility of like pretending like this isn't what it is. So just be real, you know what I'm saying? And figure out what you want to do with it. But yeah, it was crazy. And it was also by accident. It literally just happened. And then once it happened, we were strategic about saying, okay, what can we do with this platform, and how can we grow this in a way that is responsible? How can we use this as a tool to talk about the things that I've always cared about? But no, it was crazy, Yeah.
Did it frustrate you a little bit because when people go viral, sometimes they can be kind of pigeonholed or, seem very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And so, like, did you encounter that? Did it frustrate you to ever just be, to some people anyway, to maybe at least initially come across as like, oh, you're that white Kappa that shimmies?
Yeah, I mean, that was very common. I think that what was cool was I was able, I never pivoted, right? I just stayed doing what I was always doing. I just tried to figure out how I could do that on a larger scale. How could I scale the work that I was doing and the topics that I was talking about? And what was really great was, so the videos went off. And then as what happens when anybody goes viral, people dig into your social medias and they're like, okay, let's find some ugly shit, right?
Yeah.
And I was very lucky, and I suppose prepared appropriately so. People didn't find ugly shit. They found shit that they liked. They're like, oh shit, he talks about issues that white folks don't talk about.
Gotcha.
He talks about issues that straight folks don't talk about, and etc. And so then I was in a position where people were curious, and they're like, I don't get it, right? Because I think in many ways, people are like, why do you think the way that you think? How did this happen, right? And then the videos, I'm like, none of this makes sense. Like, I want to learn more. And that was an opportunity for me then to branch out and to be able to be myself in a way that was not, avoiding the pigeonhole process. And that's why I think I've been so lucky, because I get to talk about race and politics and culture and music and all this stuff together, because that's how we all come into contact with it every day.
Yep.
Now, so we're all members of the NPHC. What drew you to Kappa? Like, what made you say?
Yeah. It's funny, I get that question a lot. So the cocky answer is I was born a Kappa. I just had to sign the paperwork. Right? But no, I mean, I think that what happened was, as I mentioned before, right, the activist community and my social circle was the black community at Villanova.
Got you.
And that community extended to Drexel and the University of Pennsylvania, because a lot of these chapters are city chapters.
Yeah.
And then my best friend Josh became a Q, and then I started hanging out with his chapter a lot. And then we were hosting a party at my apartment as we were doing some diversity work for orientation when I was a junior, for the freshmen, and the Noops rolled through. And it was kind of one of those things, by the end of the night, I'm looking at Zani and Ziki. I'm looking at them like, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Right? You know what I'm saying? And then it kind of snowballed. And it was just a very perfect match. I think that Kappa was and remains for me a place where I'm surrounded by people who not just want to better themselves, but want to better the people around them.
Gotcha.
And that was an environment that I wanted to be a part of. It's not necessarily, to be perfectly frank, right, exclusive to Kappa, but that's what Kappa was for me.
No,
that
definitely.
was the relationships that we had.
Everybody's story is different,
Exactly.
So, you said like, your friend, he's a Q. So, you could have became a Q. You could have became anything. But, I mean, I feel like when you pick an organization.
Tight, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think depends on what chapter.
My neck roll not as nice as my chin.
I think it depends on the chapter. Like, I think any member falls in love with the chapter.
Yeah,
and then
100%.
and then you fall in love with the organization.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I think, and if we're keeping it a buck, like when I first got involved, I don't know if I gave a shit about Kappa nationally, because I mean, there were certainly, members of Kappa that I admired. Arthur Ashe had been someone I had always admired, and then to find out that he was the Noops was really cool, because it was like, kind of have this in common kind of thing. It wasn't really until I crossed that I started, recognizing not just the relationships that I had with other chapters, the relationships that I had with my old heads, but the way in which it was all tied together.
Got you.
And that, I think, became really cool. That was sort of a growth. I think a lot of people have various experiences, but again, I think you got to fall in love with the chapter first, and that's certainly what happened.
Definitely, you're gonna be around these people, and you got to come back.
Can't get rid of them.
Yeah, exactly. So
the people you're in contact with most often, and like that was kind of like what brought me to Delta, was because my pro fights, like I said, I was like on BSU. So when I was on the board, my pro fight was the president of our BSU, and so I just saw a lot of myself in them. Like, they were the ones that were always doing stuff on campus. They were the, like,
Amen.
And I had already been kind of like civic minded and, community, community leader type of thing from high school, and then even into college, and doing things kind of on my own. And so it just kind of all worked together. And
shout out to the Riz.
Yes. Ooh, thank you very much.
Anyway.
So,
yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, like, when I became sort of entrenched in Greek life, the Noops were the ones putting on the programs that I thought were most powerful and most impactful on the various campuses. They were the ones who sort of had this most eclectic collection of people. You had your medical people, you had your lawyer folks, you got your politics. You had you sort of ran the gamut. And then they threw some poppin' ass parties. You know what I'm saying? And like,
as did we.
And that certainly was part of it.
I mean, you already know
we did. The kind of thing that tied it all together.
You already know we did.
Yeah.
So
this guy, he was. This is a compliment.
Look,
I was like,
we
did that thing, but then you were MPAC president. This guy, he went from like not understanding or liking Greek life, like, because I'm Spring 07, he's Spring 10, and so like he gave me the blues when I was like, I want to be.
I didn't know any better.
He didn't, and then he's like a super alpha now. So it's just like it all comes full circle.
Yeah.
But so obviously. You were in the minority when it comes to the racial makeup of your organization. So I have a white profile. He has like a white member from his chapter that's old school.
Yes.
So we've all heard stories and stuff like that, but speaking to you directly, did you receive any type of like level of pushback, either chapter wise, old school, local chapters, any type of level, being a white member?
So it's crazy because this is the first question that everybody asks when we start talking about Greek life, and to me it's the funniest question because the answer is no.
Cool.
The answer is
That's
that
dope.
I faced, to call it backlash would be ridiculous, right? Are there folks who aren't necessarily pleased that I'm in the Divine Nine? Sure, right? But like, there are people who are not going to like you no matter where you go. That's fine.
Yep.
But it was so minuscule to be, discounted, right? And the real reality is that the Divine Nine organizations are all predicated on the idea of creating a space for Black students to be supported and to support the Black undergraduates at large. These are organizations that define themselves by being inclusive, right? The only organization that ever had a rule that there were only Black members was Alpha, and they changed that rule in 1953, I think.
Yeah, it
might have been earlier.
It was earlier than
I think
that.
they'd had white members earlier, but the Constitution didn't change until a little bit after, or something like that. But the whole point is that an MPHC is not perfect. There are certainly issues
100%.
with respect to sexuality and gender that are there. However, the white organizations defined themselves by being exclusive. by being racist. It was the Divine Nine that defined themselves by being not that.
Yeah,
by being inclusive. And so I was always welcomed. I came to this from a place of genuineness and openness, and you know, I was just me. I was not going to try and be fake. I wasn't going to try and do anything that was inappropriate. And I was met with open arms. If anything, I was given credit for shit that I didn't deserve credit for, right?
Gotcha.
Whether it's little things like knowing my information. People are like, damn, you know information. Well, yeah, of course I do.
You're supposed to. Like,
you know what I'm saying? Or things like the leadership roles that I took in Kappa. And it's like, oh, look at him. It's like, okay, cool. I absolutely did things that I'm proud of. And I did things that were worthy of accommodation or commendation. But sometimes it was exaggerated. Sometimes it was like a little extra special. And that, I think, is where it's important for me to be really honest and open about that.
Gotcha.
Whether we're talking about the small scale of Philly Greek life or the fact that these videos went viral because I was white.
Yeah.
If I wasn't white, I would not have the platform that I have today.
Yeah.
And being honest about that allows me to use the platform in ways that are productive and not have to hide, right? There's nothing to be ashamed of. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Right? There is no sort of this quote unquote white guilt crap. But it's a question of this is the reality. This is the way that I'm treated. This is the way that I am sort of consumed by people at large. And that's okay. There's nothing I can do to change that. So I need to be honest about that. I need to use that as a tool to talk about the things that are important.
No, definitely. And I think it's a good question because I had, like Nanny said, I have a white pro fight, and
yeah, me too.
He had it hard, like, you know.
After he crossed, in like the early 90s.
After he crossed, it was kind of like hard. It was still people who didn't really give him his respect. Like, he's made, he did everything he was supposed to do, knows information, and they still kind of gave him. And it's just the time, you know?
Yeah. I think it's the time, but it's also, I tuned a lot of it out.
Yeah.
I think if you were to ask my pro fights, they would give you a different answer than the answer I just gave.
Got you.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to focus on that shit.
Yeah, right? No.
Because even still, there was, there's always a little bit of static.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's fine, right? Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But
Got you.
I also think that like my chapter, the only other white member that we've had was in 1967, right? It was very interesting. I actually know his whole line because we did this really cool alumni reach out project after I crossed. But yeah, I think that times change, but I also think that it's a question of what lens and what context are you bringing to the equation.
Definitely.
How do you approach sort of your presence in Greek life? I think it would be inappropriate for non-black members of the Divine Nine to sort of try and masquerade or put on some sort of facade as if they're just like everybody else. And they're not, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just a question of being cognizant about that. You know,
being responsible. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Makes 100%.
And there's also the Divine Nine is far more diverse than people realize.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Absolutely.
White Greeks, Asian Greeks, Southeast Asian Greeks, Caribbean Greeks, African Greeks. It's all of it.
Yeah. Yes. So this is, although I seem like it, this is a relationship podcast.
Okay.
So
hit me with it.
Okay. We're gonna
Sam After Dark.
We're gonna ease into it. Okay. So, so I follow you on Twitter, and what you do repost sometimes is people shooting their shot.
Because I respect the shooter.
Yes. So how has that been, like, as far as like receiving that much love? Like, has anything, and we'll kind of jump around, but like, has anything come of it, or do you entertain any of that at all?
I'll say this. First of all, it's such a great feeling, and I feel so lucky because, I believe in complimenting people. I believe in gassing people up, making people feel good. If I can make somebody feel good with my time during my day, then that's not a day wasted, right? Why not do it if you can? And so I'm so lucky because people are just so fucking nice, right? And it feels good. It's empowering. It's a confidence booster. It's great. And people are hilarious. People are so creative and nasty sometimes. It's funny. And that's what I like to do with Twitter. I think Twitter's a great platform where you can have fun. You know what I'm saying? I can go from talking about nuanced policy on immigration reform to, respecting the shooter when it comes to shooting a shot.
That's always appreciated.
Do you so has more shots been shot since you become like famous, quote unquote, or is it like the same
Oh, it's definitely more.
Gotcha,
I mean, the scale is just
it's a different,
that much higher.
Gotcha.
You know, the cutest thing is when they'll hit me up on Twitter or on Instagram and they'll be like, I just saw you at, wherever. And I'll be like, yo, like, say hi. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like a misconnection or, people are a little nervous. But no, I think it's wonderful and it's certainly amusing.
Yeah. And I think I get it because people are like if I didn't meet you the way we met in like a more like a setting where it was kind of maybe appropriate to speak because you were hosting something.
I mean, so you were on people like hesitate at like the grocery store and shit.
Yeah, because like you're just doing your day,
but
your day to day.
I never mind when people say what's up. I kind of if I leave the house like I'm down to talk to folks. I love talking to people and meeting people and you know what I'm saying. So it's great.
So you're an influencer, you're a social justice activist, you're a well-known member of Black Greek Life. So when you're always working and moving towards something as far as your beliefs and making a living off of doing that, but then it's just like, where do you find the time for Sam to have a relationship?
Woo! It's tough. I think that my life is very busy, and I think that there are certainly times where you can't help but bring certain assumptions with you, and that's totally okay. I think that it's just about how do you kind of address those and sort of approach them. But yeah, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm chilling.
Are you? Is that saying you're single and dating?
I'm single.
Are you dating?
I don't even know if I understand that question. Like, I'm open to whatever. I'm not the type to kind of like walk into like a party or a situation or whatever and just be like, I'm looking for this. Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean I don't know things that I want. But nah, I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
What has been the biggest roadblock to finding something meaningful?
Like relationship wise?
Yeah, like Greekdom. Being well known now, being more like famous.
I think that one of the consequences of being, let's say, recognizable in certain spaces is people just kind of assume that if you are recognizable, if you have sort of a sense of notoriety, that you're a dickhead. And it's like, well, what? Like everything about my sort of public life would indicate the opposite.
Gotcha.
I hope, right?
Yeah.
So I think it can sometimes be frustrating because I never cease to be amazed by some of the rumors that I hear.
Really?
Like there are rumors that I like casually use the N-word. I'm like, what where did y'all get this? Right? Like, what? Like, I mean, I understand that maybe a nice little conspiracy theory, but that's crazy, Whether it's that or anything else, people think I'm gay on the low, and I'm just like, sure, guys. Like, yeah, at this point, just believe whatever you want. So I think it's more amusing than frustrating.
If you're not, dripping in toxic masculinity, then it's like, oh.
Yeah, it's like,
You got it.
Okay. So
you're just talking, babe. You don't have to look at me.
All right, sorry.
This is adorable, by the way. I wish y'all could see this. This is hilarious.
I'm trying to, I'm the talker in the relationship.
You
in the
are.
marriage.
No.
Yeah.
You?
Right?
Nah.
Like literally, I was a mass communication major. That didn't work out.
You wanted to be a
She
PR guru.
mass communication.
Yes.
She wanted to be a PR guru.
I literally said, I just want to get paid to talk. And so now I'm a teacher. I get paid to talk.
Hey, you and me both.
So that's what it comes down to. What I know you said you don't like walk into a party like looking for anything. Like, you're like, okay, like I'm looking for her. She's got it. But when it comes down to when it's time for you to be in a relationship, what are you looking for it, or what does your partner need to have in order for it to work with like Sam of 2018 with everything you have going on?
Shit. I think that one of the things I value most is somebody's willingness to kind of grow with you, as opposed to like, I think being able to meet someone where they're at and say like, I'm not sure where this is going to go necessarily, but I'm damn sure willing to find out. I'm eager to find out. And I think that's the cool part, is like growing with somebody and stuff like that. So I don't know that I necessarily have like a sort of checklist of things that I look for. I think everybody's got like a kind of checklist of things that they don't want. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't be fucking with cigarettes and all that. I don't know, there's random shit.
Cigarettes is trash.
But I think that I think someone would kind of have to be open to my crazy schedule and stuff like that. But I don't know. I always get cautious about trying to really crystallize what it is that I'm looking for, because I worry that by doing that, I'm sort of closing doors that I might not want to close.
That's a good way to look at it.
How important is it? How important is your family's opinion of like your relationship?
So it's really important, but that's also because I'm incredibly close with my family, and I don't think that I would face the same, I think, boundaries or sort of obstacles that a lot of folks will face when it comes to sort of a family's approval situation.
Such as?
Well, I mean, like...
This would be like, don't bring home a black person.
Yeah, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wanted him to kind
of... Or like, don't bring home a non-Jewish girl. Like, I've never gotten that message.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right? Like, that has never been told to me.
Okay.
And that's... I think part of why I'm so close with my family for a number of reasons, right?
Definitely.
Is because there was that attitude, right? Of we want you to be you and we want you to be happy and we want you to, whatever that may mean. So yeah, I don't know. I think though, I hold in very high regard my friends. And so if my friends don't fuck with you, like that's telling me that I need to reevaluate things. I'm not going to say, oh, Lamont or Zicky don't like you, and therefore, like, we're not going to talk. But it's that if Lamont and Zicky are coming to me and they're like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not sold on her yet. You know what I'm saying? Then it's like, okay, well,
Spidey senses is tingling.
Let's talk about this. Right? Like, why?
Let's try to figure it out.
Like, is there something I'm missing? You know what I'm saying? It's not like an all or nothing situation.
And
but
see,
like,
that's the reason why I asked, because, like, for me, it was like family. Like,
oh yeah.
Like I told Danny
at 16,
I was like, my family don't like you. Like,
that's it.
We can't do nothing.
And I was like, well, what if I'm a really nice girl? Like, I'm a nice girl.
And the family would like you.
And it was like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but it depends on the type of family you come from. Like,
definitely.
I know folks who've had to make really tough decisions about like, yo, I fuck with my partner more than I fuck with my family, and that's a tough decision to make.
You're right.
Like my mom. I mean, when my mom brought home my dad, he was a convert from to Judaism, and he converted just for his own personal reasons. But her family was not okay with this, right? And it caused a lot of stress for quite some time. I don't think I'd ever have to face that, which is something that I'm grateful for. But if my friends don't fuck with you, then that's like yellow flags. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
And I've had friends who have come to me and say, yo, for like, I'm talking to this girl kind of seriously, and she don't like you, and I had to tell her that she better get used to liking you, because that's another thing. If I'm talking to somebody seriously, and they don't like my friends, well, why? I'm like, why? Because I know them a hell of a lot better than I know you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
that makes sense. No, I mean, my friends definitely meant something like secondary. But for me, I mean, and again, it just comes just from like, I have an older brother and his situation wasn't the best. And seeing how that dynamic worked, I was just like, I don't want to put my mother through the same thing. Yeah. So for me, it was just like, listen, I like you and everything else, but my family has to like you as well. Because because at the end of the day, I mean, I come from a family where like, we're loving like 100%. You come into our house, your family, like to anybody. So for me, it's just like if they don't like you,
then it's like the bar is the bar to be disliked is very low.
Yeah, exactly.
Underneath that, it's like a problem. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, look, if you come over for dinner and like you can't have, and like I can't invite some of my like let's say Lamont and Zicky are in town or something like that, and we're all having dinner together. Like if you're weird, like if we can only be cool when we're together, then when it's just us, then that's not cool. Then we're not cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so like hearing you guys talk about that makes me kind of grateful, because like that's literally probably been one of the I can almost go so far as to say like that's never been an issue. I mean, with us, because like his line brothers, his friends, like. I mean, it's hard to dislike you,
they're
my.
It's not like you're a bad person.
Oh, thank you. Well, except for you say I'm a mean teacher, but
I mean, listen, that's your job.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So, but that doesn't enter into your purview.
Only time my line sisters didn't like him was when we were online. But that's because he was giving me the blues. That's all. But
they
loved me. I was like 18. I was my paperwork. I was chilling.
So, kind of starting to wrap this sucker up. Is it? And you can kind of just answer yes or no, but like, is it assumed that because you're in a black fraternity that you're open, that you're like automatically like into interracial dating?
I mean, people definitely assume that.
Yeah.
I like beautiful women.
So that's the criteria.
Yeah.
Cool. And
black women just happen to be very beautiful.
Aren't we? And part of why we invite guests onto our show is because we always say we can speak to the narrative of being in a relationship or a marriage from our perspective. We're high school sweethearts, but we've only been with each other. We have a child, so we speak to that narrative.
This shit is so beautiful. Oh my god!
But that's just one
lens,
you know. And think about this class. I was just having to watch a TED talk about I don't want to butcher her last name, but she was the one that did the TED was on Flawless with Beyonce, the self-titled album. Adichie.
Nigerian woman.
Yes. Yeah. So she just literally talked about the danger of the single story and how, like, if you only have one narrative, like, you don't see where you fit in there. And so this is why we invite people on who do different things for a living and how it impacts their relationships. So in a roundabout way, our question to you then is just, like, in your experience, what is the best thing about where you are as far as, like, your openness to relationships, and what's maybe, like, the more frustrating side to this?
That's a great question. So I think the frustrating thing is that, there are certainly some assumptions that I just would rather not have to explain, but it is the way it is, right? At the end of the day, I always remind myself that I signed up for this, right? The videos went viral and I chose to continue to post them. I chose to continue to try and develop the platform in a way that was responsible. I could have just disappeared. Could have just,
faded into obscurity.
Yeah, exactly. And that would have been fine. That's not the choice that I made. It wasn't the choice that I felt was responsible, and one that I wasn't going to be comfortable with. And I knew that there were going to be, downsides. Nothing is perfect. So I try and remind myself of that. But I think that it can definitely be frustrating sometimes because, I might meet somebody and I'll think everything's fine, and then I find out, I don't know, like 6 months later, something like that they, detested me because they heard I said something, this, that, or the third, which was totally untrue. I'm just like, well, and then it's not the kind of thing you can't let it weigh on you. You just gotta let it roll off your back, because, like, I'm not about to, hound down every person who's ever heard a rumor about me that's not true. I think the best thing, though, is I'm in a place where I get to meet so many people. I get to travel the country and meet amazing people, and whether it's romantically or otherwise, right? Just being able to meet new people, to hear their stories, to learn about where they're from and what they love and what they care about and what they work hard on and what frustrates them, right? And that is, to me, the joy of the work that I get to do, right? That's the selfish part, because, the giving back is amazing. I'm proud of the work that I do. But from a selfish perspective, I love to hear new stories. I love to meet new people. And to me, that can only mean that there are therefore infinitely more opportunities to find romantic relationships, right? That there is infinitely more opportunities to find someone who, you kind of have that magic with. And that is an optimism to me that is, that I'm, that I lean into.
I love it.
Yeah, that was dope. That's a great way to look at it. I mean, again, it's different from our view, so it's always refreshing. Like you said, you like to speak to people and get different stories. I think for me, it's the same. Like, doing this, I'm able to talk to different people. I'm able to ask different questions. I'm able to just see your thinking, because I think one way, you think one way. You may sway me to your way, or maybe like, no, I don't agree with that.
Or just expand it, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be an either or, but it can 100%. Be an expansion, and that's what's so cool to me. But I think the other thing that's interesting is, I'm in a generation where, like, I live in New York, I'm 26, I'm single, and it's okay. Yeah. Like, if it was 1984, even if you're in New York, but if I was in, I don't know, some small town or something like that, and I was 26, it'd be like, all right, time for babies.
Sam, what are you doing?
And that's okay. That's totally cool, right? But that's not me.
Yeah.
At least right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm so busy and all that other stuff.
And you're young. You have so much time.
Yeah,
you have so much time.
I try to remind myself of that. I'm a lot of my professional sort of colleagues and mentors and best friends and stuff, a lot of them are like 5 to 6 years older than me. And so they're, like, I can't wait for him to propose. I'm like, girl, I'm not ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm ready for your wedding. That's going to be fun. But I don't know about mine. Yeah.
Nope. I mean, I got that shit planned out, though. Before we had Tatum, I thought I was going to have a kid at 25. I'm like, we're going to have a kid at 25. My parents had me at 25. And I started to, like, after 25, I'm like, okay. And now that we have Tatum now, I'm like, I'm glad we didn't have her at 25.
I was the one that was like hard pass.
Yeah,
like,
she was.
We are not ready.
And that's
and
okay.
It's different for different folks.
Yeah, no, definitely. But again, that's what makes us work. I'm the let's go for it, and she sometimes has to be like, no, we're gonna wait here, we're gonna chill, and that helps us balance. But having Tatum at 29, 30, it made me appreciate it. Like, damn, I'm at 30 and it's not even. Yeah. I'm not old. I'm not.
Washed.
Yeah.
My mom was, I think, 31. My dad was 32 when they had me. Yeah, no, we'll see. Although finding, you know what I'm saying, dating in New York is like trying to find love in a hopeless place. That shit is expensive. Everybody jaded.
I don't
everybody
envy
knows everybody.
Yeah.
I don't envy that because
I'll be terrible dating now, just in general.
I don't like going out on dates in New York. I'd so much rather. Like, if we're cool enough already, like, if we know each other, like, I'm not about to invite someone I don't really know over, because that would be sort of inappropriate. But, like, let me cook dinner. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's have, like, a dinner at my house. You know what I'm saying? We'll have some wine. I'll cook. That, to me, that's, first of all, it's 1,000 times cheaper than a $100 date. It is. Right?
And I know I can cook, so.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I got, you know what I'm saying? I got to show off a little bit.
Yeah.
You know? Use all the seasonings. Fight all the stereotypes.
The last question.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you up. But
hold on, sorry. What is your end goal, and where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years. Okay, so the goal is I want to maximize the impact that my platform can have to create the conversations when and where they're not happening, and to maximize the consequences of that. That by talking the talk, we can walk the walk. And that it is only through, doing both that you're able to succeed. And I want to figure out in whatever ways that I can, how do we do that? It might be continuing to speak at high schools and colleges across the country, doing more media work with amazing folks at like BET and Fusion and MTV and stuff like that. Who knows? Like I might go down the podcast route, I might go down the TV show route, whatever the case may be. I just want to make sure that I'm using everything I have in my toolbox to help people, because it sounds super corny, but that is 100% what drives me, right? Like, and the responses that I get are just so fantastic that I couldn't be more grateful about the reception that my work gets.
Dope.
And maybe going to your own wedding?
Yes.
And maybe having kids?
Yeah, definitely.
Not trying to push that narrative on you, but just saying that too.
I do want to have kids. I'm weird though, so I would like to I'd like to have a child, and then I would like to adopt.
So we talk about that too. That's someplace because we obviously have a child already, but I have relatives, like family of mine, who have been adopted into our family, and then also like I have a cousin who was given up for adoption in like the 60s, and like we just reconnected with him in like the last 2-3 years. So I have this like first cousin who's like 50 something years old, but like it's been so like interesting and like everything that like to see that dynamic, and so like that's something that I've always kind of been like open to.
Yeah, I definitely want to adopt. I just think there's too many kids here in this country who are, who deserve beautiful homes.
So you adopt from the United States?
I think so. I think that's what I would want to do. Particularly because adopting abroad is not only incredibly expensive. I'm not saying it can't be very rewarding, but I think that it would be nice to find a way to provide for the kids that are here.
No, definitely. I just know that it's like a lot of different rules, so that's why a lot of people...
I don't know shit about the logistics. I'm just saying, sort of in my little, hypothetical. I got a couple things about my wedding I want to do. I got a couple things about kids, I want to do. You know what I'm saying? I got a little...
it just got...
I don't got it planned out like girls be having that shit planned out, but I got a little bit. I got a sense.
All right. Well...
And with that is the...
end of our interview.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, y'all. Y'all are the best.
And
thank you.
We're about to get into that lovers quarrel.
And for this lovers quarrel, I want us to play a little game, baby.
Okay.
Do you want to play a game? Is that what Jigsaw says?
Something like that.
I'd like to play a game.
I don't think he says I like to play.
Oh, wait. I'm playing myself right now. Hold on.
Oh.
Let me back up because it is lovers quarrel.
Go ahead. What do you have this week?
I got 7 Mac 11s, about 8 38s, 9 9 10 Mac 10s. The shits never end. You can't touch my riches, even if you had MC Hammer and them 357 bitches. I'm not gonna give everybody everything, but I'm letting you know that's another song that makes me want to fight.
Okay.
So I'm ready.
I like that you're showing it this week.
I appreciate you.
Last week you was just going.
First of all, I could do the whole Biggie freestyle.
We know. We believe you. You don't have to.
You're a hater.
No, I'm not a hater. I'm just realistic. Go ahead.
This is a little game. So this game is this overrated, underrated, or accurately rated? So if I'm going to give you a topic.
Explain.
I'm going to give you a topic, a subject, and you're going to tell me whether or not you think that subject is overrated or underrated, or if it's accurately rated, meaning like it gets enough, mention, it gets enough notoriety.
Can I get like a practice round?
Sure. The first one can be a practice one. It's very simple.
Go ahead.
Pizza.
And you said it's either
overrated, underrated, or accurately rated.
Accurately.
I agree.
It actually may be under.
It's accurately rated.
No, it may be under. Like, pizza's the fucking best.
Okay.
Like,
you think people don't give pizza enough of its props?
I don't think so.
People eat pizza all the time.
Especially, there's certain places that pizza is very popular. New York, Chicago, stuff like that. But there are some places that they don't really eat pizza like that.
Okay.
It's nothing like a New York slice of pizza.
All right. So, you get the idea?
Sure.
And the topics range from everything. There's some food, there's some celebrities, there's
rock
some...
out.
Okay.
I may just ask you again.
What they mean?
No, which levels.
Okay.
All right.
Overrated, underrated.
Come on, that's too many directions.
Right. Oh my
just go ahead.
Here we go. All right. Love.
Overrated.
Underrated. Avocados.
In the middle, whatever that one was.
Accurately rated. I agree. Okay. The Kardashians. Overrated.
Overrated in what way, though?
Every way.
I mean, listen, it built a fucking empire off a sex tape.
Overrated.
Listen.
So where do you stand? Accurate?
I'm gonna say that they're accurate.
Niggas.
That's crazy.
All right.
First off, you gotta respect the hustle.
I do respect the hustle. They're still overrated.
How's that overrated? You turned a sex tape into an empire.
The way people hang on there everywhere, it's overrated.
Yeah, but that's how big they are. They turned a sex tape into an empire to fucking lip gloss and lipstick and reality TV shows and modeling careers.
You know the whole next generation of their kids, with the exception of Courtney, are black.
Oh, you mean like the young ones?
Yeah, the babies are all black.
Nah, Scott and them got...
That's what I said, besides Courtney.
Okay, yeah.
So maybe that generation will be accurately rated.
Nah, they may be overrated.
Whatever. New Year's Eve. I love New Year's Eve, but I have to say it might be a little overrated.
I think so.
I love New Year's Eve, but I think it's overrated a little bit. Or maybe because I'm still waiting to go to my Great Gatsby-esque New Year's Eve party where
I may go with you. I haven't had an amazing
New Year's. It's just always kind of been
it's what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Where are we gonna go?
Last year was cool though. We were in Vegas.
We were in Vegas. That was cool.
Yeah, with the fam.
So.
All right. So now we're gonna kind of rapid fire.
Okay.
All right. So we were left open. Brunch.
Underrated.
Brunch is underrated, you think? In 2018? Everybody goes to brunch. Nah. Everything is brunch. I think brunch is a little overrated now.
I think it's overrated?
Social media.
Overrated.
I think it's accurately rated.
No,
it's a gift and a curse.
No, it's overrated. It's the devil.
Here we go. Drake.
Underrated.
Underrated? I think he's accurately rated.
Nah, he's underrated.
Beyonce.
Overrated. I just said it just for you.
Exactly, because you're a fucking hater.
She's in the middle.
Accurately rated because she is the GOAT. Talking on the phone. Underrated.
That's underrated.
Overrated.
Back in the day, talking on the phone was the shit.
Yeah, but now I don't want to talk on the phone.
You had to sneak. Well, I didn't have to sneak, but you had to sneak on the phone, make sure, you know what I mean? And then parents who knew, they used to find a way to be on the phone without hearing that you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, when three-way calling came into play, that was life-changing. But I still think it's kind of overrated nowadays. It's just I'll talk on the phone if I absolutely have to, but not if I...
That's what's wrong with your generation.
Maybe you're the same generation as me.
Nah, you're part of the new generation.
I'm done.
Talking on the phone is important, yo.
Moving on. Getting married.
Getting married. What was the three?
Overrated.
Overrated.
Underrated. Accurately rated.
I would say it's accurately rated, from my point of view. But
same.
You didn't say. Oh, okay.
Underwear. Overrated.
Accurately rated.
You don't always. Everybody doesn't always have to wear underwear.
Okay.
Reading. Underrated.
I'll go.
Oh snap. Talking to new people, like to strangers.
I think that's underrated.
I don't know where I stand on that one. Sometimes it just depends on my mood. I think I don't want to talk to people sometimes, but then other times I'm, a social butterfly.
I feel like it's okay to be nice.
I'm nice.
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying for me, like it's okay just to speak to somebody, just to say hey. Okay. You walking down the street, you never know what anyone's going through. That high may have changed their lives.
All right. Eating in, underrated.
Like eating.
Like dining in, like eating at home.
I think it's overrated.
Dining out.
Dining out.
I think that's overrated.
I mean, that's overrated too.
Okay. Well, with that being said, we reached the end of the episode.